It's time to have your say. Welcome back to the Q&A, answering your questions in the wrestling community on WWE and more. It's time for another episode of Ask SCW. So welcome back to another episode of Ask SCW. Plenty on the discussion in your questions today. Of course, a change in the mid-card for WWE. Finn Balor, the United States Champion. Ricochet, the new Intercontinental Champion. Going to give my takes on what's the future going on with that. As well as that, also, Vince McMahon was on the Pat McAfee show. One of our headline topics today. Going to be talking WrestleMania 38. And of course, Pat McAfee now is in the match against Austin Theory. So plenty to digest and a little bit of extras at the end of this video as well. Going to touch on a couple of topics that I want to discuss about rather than doing a flood of extra videos. I just thought I'd put them in one bundle, one place, so that will be at the end of this Q&A, so lots to look forward to. So before we get started, please like the video, share with a friend as well, spread the word of SCW, subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't already, and drop a comment in the comments below. If you want to be involved though on the next Q&A, in the comment section you can drop your question with the hashtag AskSCW, or you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all should be coming on your screen right about now. Well, without further ado, let's get with our first question this week. And it comes from Super Sonic X saying, what are your thoughts on Pat McAfee's interview with Vince McMahon on his podcast? I find it very interesting and a lot of wrestling fans should give that interview a listen. And I completely agree. First interview from Vince McMahon for over 15 years, and it's always good to get inside Vince's head for a short while, see what he's thinking, see the way he ticks, and see the way things are put over. It was a fascinating listen and a fascinating discussion between them two, going through all different breeds of topics. I mean, talking about the competition, how Vince McMahon likes, confrontation if you want, dealing with releases, dealing with partnerships in Saudi Arabia. There was lots of things that were, discussed in and amongst this interview, but perhaps two major talking points more than anything. Of course, the first one being that Vince McMahon is going to be the one to induct The Undertaker into the Hall of Fame. This to me makes a lot of sense, but of course, neither man like to get overly emotional, and obviously Vince McMahon does get a bit emotional about The Undertaker because not only is he grateful for the greatness of the performer, but also the friendship that they've had over the last 30 years or so. But for me, he is the right person to induct The Undertaker into the Hall of Fame. The second thing as well, which I think got most people talking, was Pat McAfee being given a match at WrestleMania 38. Now, of course, many were speculating, it was the big topic last week on the Q&A, the idea of Pat McAfee versus Vince McMahon that was doing the rounds in amongst the rumour mill. Thank goodness that didn't come out to be true in the end. I did have my reservations of where I believed that rumour to begin with, but the fact is that Vince McMahon offered Pat McAfee a chance to wrestle at WrestleMania, and I thought that was a really cool moment and cool spot. You move it over to SmackDown, of course, and Vince McMahon said he was going to be the one to find an opponent. Well, he didn't have to look too far, did he? But he wasn't the one to make the announcement, which I thought took a little bit of the shine away from it, if I'm being brutally honest, because, well, Vince McMahon obviously handpicking Austin Theory, his protege, to go and take that match. They could have perhaps made some form of rivalry on it, perhaps something to do with, Vince McMahon was not happy with the way that he was interviewed, the fact that maybe he wasn't happy with some of the questions, the fact that he kept being thanked. You could see a couple of moments where Vince's face actually changing the interview. You could see where he was kind of more comfortable than not. You could kind of read that, in my personal opinion, when watching that interview over. So that could have been played in some form of the storyline there. But I mean, Austin Theory, of course, taking on that challenge for Pat McAfee, slapping him in the face, snapping that headset off as well, doing the selfies as well, Pat McAfee being mad on the table. All in all, I do think that this actually makes to a good WrestleMania match, and I think that it makes a lot of sense because, well, the Pat McAfee and Vince McMahon interview got a lot of hype to begin with. The fact that Pat McAfee's been given now this match at WrestleMania. Let's not forget that Pat McAfee is a household name to many, what would be casual wrestling fans or people outside of wrestling that would come in to want to see how he would get on and fare in a WrestleMania match. It's fair enough saying, how would he fare in an NXT environment in TakeOver, but this is WrestleMania. This is the biggest stage possible. And to be fair, Pat McAfee, the two times he's been in the ring before, wrestling fans know he can go. So we're kind of at ease with this one, where with perhaps some of the other celebrities, we kind of go, how is this going to go? Do we believe in it as much? We kind of believe in Pat McAfee. We see him almost as one of our own now. So it's kind of interesting that he's going to work for both sides. And of course, with Austin Theory being in there, Austin Theory has that potential to shine. If Austin Theory can have a good performance, if he can get a victory, he's beating what's seen as a household name in Pat McAfee. So this ticks a lot of boxes. This is a star-making potential moment for Austin Theory, something that can really make him shine going in towards the summer, Pat McAfee is a no-lose situation. He gets to fulfill a dream as well by competing at a WrestleMania. We can see that he can go as well in the ring. So hopefully he's going to be in ring shape. It's going to be good to go. It's going to be good all around. But of course, if you put pen to paper, of course, I'm sure many wrestling fans are going, Austin Theory versus Pat McAfee. Not exactly the match I had in mind for WrestleMania, but for the structure, the attraction of what WrestleMania is supposed to represent and what's supposed to be, I do think this is going to be a good match, and I think it will accomplish some goals that you need to coming out of it. Like I say, building for stars for the future, Austin Theory being one of the main ones that you can push forward going out after WrestleMania 38. Mike, Italian Habs Mike, for the next question now here in AskSCW, saying WrestleMania 38 has been hurting in ticket sales and has not been a great build. In your opinion, what does WWE need to do to drive ticket sales and gain interest with Mania 4 weeks away? Is it Steve Austin and Cody Rhodes? Well, Steve Austin and Cody Rhodes are certainly two driving factors, I think, what would get some interest and buzz going into WrestleMania 38. I mean, people can't deny the idea of Steve Austin being in Texas in front of that huge, large crowd of a WrestleMania 38, especially if it was a comeback match as well. That definitely would drive ticket sales up. Cody Rhodes, say what you want. I mean, if he was to turn up in WWE, you know, an EVP from AEW, that is a big talking point. Fans, again, it would drive interest. Although with Cody, you don't know if he's coming or going at this point. Latest news reports, according to No DQ, coming out earlier today, is that apparently he's been taken off the plans currently for WrestleMania 38. It means that perhaps something still hasn't been agreed, something perhaps still hasn't been signed. There was a lot of rumours going around last night with the Madison Square Garden show that would Cody Rhodes show up. He did not. I think a lot of the buzz that was done, what was meant to be the big talking point from that show, was the beatdown that Roman Reigns gave to Brock Lesnar, holding both championships above his head. I expect that to be shown on WWE TV, perhaps on Raw and on SmackDown this week. But I mean, for me personally, I would say at WWE, they are doing some good things. I think where perhaps a lot of negativities come with this build to WrestleMania is that a lot of the focus has been put on Roman and Brock, perhaps even, you know, destroying a lot of the roster and not really worrying about their positions, really. As long as we get Roman and Brock over as the biggest WrestleMania match of all time, everything else will be fine. But I think WWE has done their best to address the situation since. Coming up in a question in a minute, of course, they changed both mid-card champions this week, so that's certainly a buzz they can give, an unpredictable factor, because I'll be quite honest, if you'd have asked me before the matches went and took place, like this time last weekend, if I'd have done it on the Q&A, I would have said that both champions would have retained. So the idea that both belts have changed hands, that's excitement, that's fresh, that's something different. We've also got new directions now going into WrestleMania season, but also you look at things and say with Edge and AJ Styles, the heel turn that took place there, that was really exciting. It gives some edge, it gives, pun intended by the way, it's given some storyline drive to that angle with AJ and Edge. It's not just a dream match anymore. We're just pointing at a sign and saying, let's have a match at WrestleMania. There's actually some storyline narrative with it. We need to find out Edge, why did you do it? I've got an idea that why I think Edge did it. I think he's disappointed that the locker room didn't take him up on that challenge sooner. I think he was frustrated, thinking that he almost had to beg for a WrestleMania match rather than someone coming directly to him for that WrestleMania moment. So I think that's probably going to be a twist and a tweak of why we've got that storyline put in place. But with Edge, you know, it's a big time deal, big sort of WrestleMania match built there. We've got the outside attractions coming in. Think what you want about a Logan Paul, a Johnny Knoxville, for example, but they will get outside interest into the show. But going on to ticket sales, let's take them away from the TV product and talk about ticket sales. This is a big stadium, AT&T Stadium, and WWE doing 2 nights there, and this could be one of the negatives of WrestleMania being a 2-night show, because, well, you've got to buy 2 tickets for WrestleMania. Those tickets are not cheap. It's not easy for someone to say, I'm going to spend all this money on both nights of WrestleMania, and I'm going to have, both nights in the same seat sitting there. It's a lot of money. I think I read somewhere that WWE is now starting doing 2 for 1, but obviously, to rent the whole big stadium and that, is that cutting losses on money? I'm not sure. Maybe it's too big of a venue to do a 2-night WrestleMania, especially, we're not, we're sort of coming up, it feels away from that pandemic now, but still a lot of people have still been hit in some form or fashion, and WrestleMania is also a very international event. I mean, you could look around and say, well, Dave and Kate from Cardiff are thinking about going over. They've got to think about flights, they've got to think about accommodation, everything on top. It's very, very expensive to go and do. So for me, it's not as easy for everyone to just turn around and say, we'll all go for WrestleMania. There probably is interest of where they could fill it if people say they want to go and would go and see the show, but to put everything financially together, I don't think is the easiest in the current climate. So I think there's a number of reasons why perhaps the interest and perhaps why the ticket sales maybe not as high, but I think WWE are looking to try and address it and are throwing a lot of the wall. Let's be fair, wrestling news and wrestling events sometimes in 2022 so far have seemed a bit drunk. I don't think we'd have all predicted this at the start of the year. So it's certainly interesting in different ways, but I think it comes each to their own of what they think of the gathering of the interest. But hopefully WWE will be able to fill it out. Hopefully WWE will continue with compelling storylines. I did a video not so long ago of what I think 5 things WWE need to do between now and WrestleMania 38. I think those are the things that get everything in motion to make a great show and great interest. But obviously, the celebrities and attraction help get the outside audience in as well. And like you say, if a Steve Austin and Cody Rhodes come in, that can only help elevate the interest in this show also. Next question comes from Martin Lorenzo Carrillo. With the mid-card championships changing hands, is this proof that anything can happen right now in WWE? And could this be a sign of many possibilities at and after WrestleMania? I really hope so, because it's an unpredictable factor with those belts changing hands, and it really freshens up that mid-card and the championship pictures going into WrestleMania. One, on the Raw side, where I think it sort of has made a match of WrestleMania, but it's changed dynamics, it's changed angles, it's created a storyline in doing so. It's hopefully freshened up Damian Priest's character by turning heel also. On the other side with Ricochet, it's completely wide open. They could do anything from this point onwards with Ricochet and what program they want to do, and I would be going further in the next question of where I want them to go with Ricochet with the IC title. But still, it really does give an exciting factor, and for me now I sit and go, well, anything can happen between now and WrestleMania. And obviously we had the show with MSG last night, and we thought that Brock Lesnar could potentially have a surprise opponent that maybe he could drop that championship to if Roman was to cost him. Wasn't the case in the end. It was Austin Theory, and you know, Brock Lesnar got through it. But still, it's a situation where you start thinking, well, anything can happen, and that creates buzz. It creates excitement, building off that last question there, and you start thinking, I'm actually interested in what WWE is going to throw at us next. So this is a really good thing that they've done this, and like I say, it's helped with, you know, Finn Balor and Damian Priest. They've got a program they're going to WrestleMania. I'm imagining we'll get a rematch with that. Damian Priest's heel turn, we're now not going to get the Jekyll and Hyde side of him. It's going to be full on heel. We'll just get the Damian side of it, and with the Damian side, does that mean we'll eventually get a demon with Finn Balor? And that's kind of an exciting prospect as well. I think these two have good chemistry in the ring. They had a good match on Raw. I know they did take another match at MSG last night, so they're still building chemistry. Doesn't feel like that's one and done, so I expect that will be the match going into WrestleMania. But yeah, for the mid-card all round, I mean, Damian Priest have been champions at SummerSlam. I know Sami Zayn only had it for a couple of weeks, but Nakamura had it for a long time, and it felt like the IC title was going nowhere. So for me, there's just all of a sudden these possibilities with the mid-card championship. So much can be done, and if this can be as a fallout after WrestleMania, it creates good TV, good buzz. I don't think everyone was expecting these title changes either. So, you know, I think there's a lot of happiness, a lot of positivity coming from social media. A lot has changed over a week in WWE with the landscape with just those title changes alone. So, yeah, let's see what happens. Maybe that can link in with storylines, heel turns, face turns, surprise returns, debuts, all of that sort of stuff, and it creates a great buzz, and that's what makes a great television program. Next question now comes from Austin Whitley. With Ricochet seemingly getting a push, do you see his career getting back on track? Plus, what do you see him doing at WrestleMania 38? Great question, this one, and I've got to say, yeah, Ricochet, the career is back on track, and he's done what was needed for so long. I always thought that SmackDown was the suitable ground for him to be at, because, you know, the land of the high flyers, there seems to be many of those on Raw. On SmackDown, he just has the ability to stand out on that show a lot more, and it fits the narrative so much better, you know, being on Fox as well. So for me personally, I think it's just everything's fallen into place for Ricochet once again, and now winning the Intercontinental Championship as well. He's been given a chance to have a championship run. Let's hope it's going to be a meaningful one. Maybe he can do some, I don't know, open challenges, maybe some, you know, athletes around that sort of caliber as well in the mid-card. It really just freshens things up in the program in general, and for Ricochet himself. The prospect going forward is so much more brighter. I hope now that we're not going to just have him stuck in a battle royal when the IC title isn't featured on WrestleMania at all. I've got a funny feeling we will get a match at WrestleMania. If you ask my opinion, I would like it to be a ladder match. That's what I would like to see. Throw 3 or 4 guys in and amongst there in the ranks, and we put a ladder in the middle of the ring and see some crazy spots, because you know Ricochet Ricochet is going to be one for a crazy spot or two to go then and retain that Intercontinental Championship. But at the same time, I believe we've got a ladder match going for Stand and Deliver with Carmelo Hayes, which is going to be on WrestleMania weekend as well. So I expect Ricochet perhaps to have his own program, maybe a #1 contender, built for him, or perhaps someone will give him a sneak attack from behind. I would like to see Mustafa Ali come back personally. I'd love to see him just come back to TV and come in a mid-card program with Ricochet, but I don't see that one happening. It looks like Sheamus and Ridge Holland are going to be tied up with the New Day, so Sheamus probably isn't that person that would go for the title right now. I think Nakamura and Boogs as well are going to be tied in with the tag team title, so it's hard to know who will actually be the challenger for Ricochet right now, but certainly I think maybe we'll get maybe a singles match, maybe a triple threat match, something along that line, but definitely exciting times ahead for Ricochet. And I've got high hopes for him as IC champion. I hope that this isn't just for a couple of weeks and he drops at WrestleMania and then just gets lost in the shuffle once again. Another idea they could do as well, they could always do the open challenge on WrestleMania. Think about the excitement, the buzz. Who will be the person that will answer Ricochet's challenge? Could it be someone that could come up from NXT, for example? Could be a good use of maybe Carmelo Hayes loses in the ladder match the night before and he debuts on WrestleMania against Ricochet. That'd be an awesome match. So those are a couple of ideas that could go down, but certainly I think some exciting times ahead regardless of Ricochet as IC champion. Last question on the Q&A this week before I give my own personal topics I'd like to discuss before leaving you comes from the kid Mikey Wilkes. A Universal WWE champion will be named at WrestleMania. The Cruiserweight title unified with the North American Championship at New Year's Eve. With a hopeful endemic coming, does it make sense for the WWE and NXT women's tag team titles to be combined and defended through Raw, SmackDown and NXT? For me, it definitely makes sense to combine those women's tag team championships. The reasoning for it is that, well, Raw and SmackDown, are there any tag teams? I mean, we've got the tag team champions now. We've got the, reunited Team Bad as well. It seems to be challenging at WrestleMania with Naomi and Sasha Banks, but these don't feel like long-term tag teams. I mean, we've even seen a little bit of dissension with Carmella and Queen Zelina backstage on, I think it was Raw or SmackDown this past week. Anyway, Queen Zelina sort of rolling her eyes a little bit at Carmella when she was talking. So it feels a little bit to me that we could get another tag team breaking up after WrestleMania if Naomi and Sasha win the tag team championship. So we do need more tag teams, and at least with NXT, the Dusty Cup, it shows there's not really a lot of strength in depth in that tag team division there either. A lot of single stars being thrown together, but at least, we could perhaps make some teams out of it, and maybe, like you say, with Raw, SmackDown and NXT, you can perhaps get 8 divisions together. Maybe WWE needs to look at Raw and SmackDown and think, who isn't being utilised? Who could we put together as a team as well? I still think the idea of Nikki ASH and Doudrop, change the names over back to Nikki Cross and Piper Niven, put them as a tag team. I think that could be quite a fun tag team in the division as well. But personally for me, I would unify them. I think more championships are going to get unified in WWE in 2022, although I don't think that title or those titles will be one of them. I do think the Women's Tag Team Championships will be separated because they want to keep Raw and SmackDown as one, NXT as the other. But if, we've got the WWE Championship and Universal, if they do be combined into one new championship, one WWE Championship and one perhaps brand new design, I expect then the Women's Championships to be unified later on as well as the Tag Team Championships also, but I don't think the United States or Intercontinental Championship will. I think they'll remain respective to their brands, or will just come together as one if the brand split does end. But there's certainly lots of questions, more questions than answers at this point. To answer your question, I personally, yes, would merge those Women's Tag Team Championships together, but do I think it will happen? No, I think WWE will keep them separate as they want Raw and SmackDown to be one, and they want NXT to be completely isolated on its own. Even when you look at the idea that they could actually get some exposure with NXT women's tag teams, put them on Raw or SmackDown, see if they can engage, get over with the audience, because that's a great way to see how these championships would work with a team from NXT being on Raw and SmackDown. But unfortunately, WWE, I don't think will go down that avenue. So that's the Q&A portion of the video complete. Thank you everyone so much for your questions. As always, fantastic questions in amongst there. Go and follow them on social media as well. Everyone on Twitter there. Let's grow together in the wrestling community. And in the meantime, let's also go with a few topics just to finish off the video today that I wanted to bring to you now. Gonna start off Erick Redbeard going to AEW and being on AEW Rampage. And I'm not sure if it's a full-time deal or contract or anything like that, but of course we have got another match added to AEW Revolution on the buy-in. Erick Redbeard, of course, is going to be teaming up with Penta, El Zero Miedo and Pac, of course, of Death Triangle to go against the House of Black, which of course is, you know, Malachi Black, we've got Brody King, and of course a Buddy Matthews. Now, to give a prediction on that, I think House of Black are winning. I think it says something with Erick Redbeard being put in here on Rampage, not being brought in on Dynamite, and also the idea is what this match is going to be on the buy-in and not on the main show itself. That I think we are still waiting for when Rey Fenix can return. I think this was the spot Rey Fenix was meant to be on here, and I think that this will be perhaps the long-term idea for this match. So I think in the meantime, the heels pick up the victory, and I think the House of Black do pick up the win. As a fantasy booking idea, something I would be quite interested in seeing is Erick Redbeard actually being a part of the House of Black, actually turning on the baby faces, and they brought him in thinking that he's going to be on their side, but actually he's actually on the House of Black side, because I think he would fit that group pretty darn well, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. But certainly it remains to be seen for me if it's one or done, but certainly is a match that I'm still looking forward to, and I think AEW Revolution is going to be an awesome event. It's still time to check out my predictions that are on the channel for you now. The second topic I want to talk about was none other than Josh Alexander, of course, returning at Impact Wrestling Sacrifice, laying out moves as well. He's also signed a multi-year deal with Impact Wrestling. This is the biggest signing Impact Wrestling can make the whole calendar year, in my personal opinion. You can get people from other companies that have been stars elsewhere and bring them in, trying to give an instant boost to your promotion that someone so was in WWE or in AEW and is now here in Impact, or even from New Japan if you want. But sometimes you just can't beat those names that you didn't know before they came into Impact Wrestling, and they've built themselves up to be what arguably should be the face of your company. That is Josh Alexander. He's built himself to do that over the last number of years, being part of arguably one of the best tag teams of the last decade in the North. I really enjoyed their work together, and then, you know, going off solo, being a great X Division champion and winning the Impact World Championship. Yes, losing it seconds later to Moose, and now we can finally build to what I expect that match will happen at Rebellion, and I think Josh Alexander will be your next Impact World Champion, winning at that show. And I saw a suggestion as well from Eli Samuel on Twitter saying we need a lethal lockdown match with Team Impact and Honor No More. I love that suggestion. I really hope that goes down. I wanted to give him a shout out for that because I really thought that was a fantastic suggestion. And last topic I wanted to talk about was the Raw Tag Team Championship match on Raw tomorrow night. We've got 3 teams in place. We've got the Alpha Academy defending those titles against RK Bro, and of course as well against Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. The big question is, as we spoke about earlier in the Q&A portion, is Steve Austin, is Cody Rhodes going to be a part of WrestleMania? If so, we know that Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens more than likely won't win those tag team championships, but I don't rule them out in this situation. One thing though I do rule out is RK Bro. Randy Orton has been suffering, taking pinfalls all the time it seems lately when it comes to this team losing. I think he's going to put the blame on Riddle, and one line that just stuck with me last week, they're going to win those tag team championships this week if it's the last thing they do. That line really resonated with me because when Randy said that to me, it almost felt like his patience is wearing thin. Riddle versus Randy Orton, in my opinion, will happen at WrestleMania as a one-on-one singles match against each other. I expect Randy Orton to turn on Riddle tomorrow night on Raw. To give a prediction for the match, I want Alpha Academy to retain because I think they've been a breath of fresh air. Chad Gable being one of the MVPs of WWE in the year 2022 so far. They deserve a moment at WrestleMania, deserve a match at WrestleMania as well, defending those Raw Tag Team Championships, in my opinion, more than likely against the Street Profits, who defeated the number 1 contenders for those Tag Team Championships, RK Bro, a couple of weeks ago on Raw. So for me personally, that's what I want to see go down. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this video, then please like the video, share, subscribe as well, hit the bell as well for notifications, turn into all, you know, each and every time a video is released. Monetization is key in 2022 here on SCW. Just a couple of 100 hours away now from hitting monetization. We are creeping there very, very slowly, more than halfway at the start of the year. So more videos you can watch of SCW, the better. It really does help the channel out a lot, and I really, really do appreciate those that are supporting the channel, those that are taking the time to go and watch videos. And of course, more videos will be dropping this week, including the New Day fantasy booking breakup storyline. That's right, it was asked on Q&As at the live Q&A, so I'm going to bring that video to the channel as well, looking to give you as much quality content as possible. But that's all from me. Have yourselves a great day. Thank you for watching. Check out these videos on the side of the screen right now, including NXT Roadblock 2022 predictions available on the channel right now. Have yourselves a great day. Thank you for watching. You've been watching SCW here on YouTube.